Let's rock, baby.
Welcome, everyone, to Legion Gaming. I'm your host, Donnie, and as always, I'm joined by a co-host, Deucy.
Ooh, hello, everybody.
Deucy, how are you today on our episode 71, all about Devil May Cry and the reboots?
And halfway through October here, and our spooky month, I am excited for this one. It's a game I haven't played in a while, but I did actually beat it back in the day.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite series, which I say quite a lot when we talk about games here, but this one is really sort of the upper echelon of PS2 trilogies. Not the second game, not so much, but as far as series on the PS2 and my love for Capcom, this is definitely one of the higher end ones.
All trilogies have to have their ups and downs.
They do, and sometimes you expect the second to peak, and this one was more of like a valley, so to speak.
Yeah, it needed a redemption arc.
It did, and it did, yeah, which we'll cover someday. But for today's purposes, like I mentioned, we're going to be covering the original Devil May Cry, released in 2001, and we're also covering the reboot, which we won't go, I guess, too in-depth with the reboot necessarily. It's really just sort of a tangential coverage because it is sort of related to the main series, obviously. Plus, we did a reboots episode a little while back where I defended the reboot pretty handedly because I thought it was such a fantastic game.
And at the time, I didn't quite know, what you were talking about, but I have since played it, and I am enjoying it.
Yeah, which will be fun to talk about because I'm curious to get your impressions on it because you're definitely not of the action game genre as much as I am. Like you play them, but for me that's like as close to fighting games for me because it has that same sort of, they're almost related in a sense.
Well, you grew up with things like Streets of Rage and stuff, so this is just sort of the 3D evolution of those.
It kind of is. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So before we get to everything Devil May Cry, Deucy, what have you been playing lately?
What have I been playing? A couple big things, actually. I finished Resident Evil 8 already. I think it was even in a quicker time. No, it was 10 days, and I finished Resident Evil 7 in like 7 days. Mm-hmm. But there was a big event in between. We had to set aside our lives and go to our friend's wedding. That was fun. But Resident Evil 8... God, that was a really fun time.
It's a great time. I'm glad you finished it because I've been singing its praises for the last half a decade, like I said in the last episode, because 7 was definitely sort of the reboot of the series that it needed after 6, and then 8 was a great continuation of that, and obviously Capcom's been on fire since then because they had the remakes of 2 and 3, and they also have 9 coming out, but Resident Evil 8 was a phenomenal time for me. I think it's just the right length. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Actually, it could have been even longer, and I loved it just the same.
It did feel a little shorter than 7, but that's just because I couldn't put it down, and I was really enjoying going right into the next level after I beat a boss. I really liked how it paid homage to a lot of what came before. Like in the castle, in the first one that I talked about in our last episode, it really felt like the mansion or maybe the castle in Code Veronica. A lot of puzzle-heavy elements and things just to get to the next rooms. And then you go to that one area where it's a spooky dollhouse.
I knew you were going to mention that because as arguably next to Lady Dimitrescu, that's one of the most well-known parts of the game. And notorious for good reason, where you have like this weird, I don't know, amorphous baby doll thing crawling towards you.
And it takes away your weapons, and then it just makes it like narrow tunnel vision, and it really feels like Resident Evil 7 again. Another area, you go into this water, and that reminded me of a little bit of Resident Evil 4. And what other one? There was another one, just, anytime Resident Evil is on the water, it felt like that. I guess mostly Resident Evil 4 with the big lake monster. And this one was a big fish monster. And then in the final area, you're in like the factory setting and also the castle setting. That felt like Resident Evil 5, maybe a little bit of 6.
It was really
great.
It
was very action heavy in that part.
Did you find the note that was in there? I think it was by Spencer, right? That kind of alludes to the creation of, I think it was an Umbrella, if I recall. Right?
Yeah, because he was like really good friends with the main bad guy of 8.
Yes.
And they're also very old because of things that are in them. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny that it was just sort of thrown in. And he's like, oh, we both found these viral things where people will change because of them. And he wanted to go one route and she wanted to go on a personal vendetta route. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, they sort of tied it in.
I like that they tied it in, even though it's obviously very blatant, like who would write this on a note and just have it laying around their lab or something. Just, that's not something you want to have laying around necessarily. But I really like that was sort of a breadcrumb there to tie everything together, and kind of, that was the moment where I was telling you, where I was like, oh crap, like, okay, like there is some sort of prequel in a sense with that note saying like, this is how we made the mansion / umbrella and how the partnership came to be. So I thought that was a really cool little tidbit in there.
Yeah, up until probably the last area, I was really like, boy, how is this tying together? Other than when you first get into that whole world, there's like a little symbol that looks like the umbrella symbol. And this was obviously before they had formed that company. And that stonework was made before then. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, is that going to be the only weird little reference to the old ways, the old games? And this really did feel like a continuation of 7, where like 7 and 8 feel like their own self-contained story. There was a definite beginning and there's a definite end in this one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. I would love to play through it again, actually, because I mentioned in the last episode where I haven't played through since they added the third-person mode. There's also a VR mode that I forgot was added, so that probably is really awesome with the PSVR 2 that I have.
Oh, it's probably similar to the RE4?
I'd imagine it's very similar, because I think the update probably came out around the time Resident Evil 4 Remake came out, so it probably has a lot of similarities. I'm sure it's a really good time. It's probably really hilarious seeing Lady Dimitrescu just tower over you.
Yeah.
I imagine that's got to be really freaking hilarious.
Oh my god, that must be fun trying to run away from her constantly.
Yeah. Just looking back and this 8-foot tall woman. Yeah.
I did enjoy it in third-person mode. I didn't even try it on first-person yet.
Yeah, I imagine it's a much different experience, because the DLC, like I mentioned, it is all in third-person, and it didn't feel weird to me then. It just felt natural, frankly. I didn't really have a disconnect between first person and third person. It still felt like a great experience.
Yeah, when I was playing this in third, I was like, this just feels like how Resident Evil has been the past few years, ever since the remake started coming out. Mm-hmm. The other game I got into very recently, just a couple nights ago, it's back after years and years. I'm finally excited for NASCAR 25.
It's funny because I'm excited for you for this game, because I'm not a sports fan at all. I enjoy sort of being on the outside of most sports, but I enjoy listening about NASCAR from you because, frankly, we grew up with it. Technically, like I would go over your house, I'd watch. If I had dinner at your house, I'd be watching a race with your parents.
Yep.
Right. So it's like I'm always NASCAR and proxy. So when I hear that there's a new awesome NASCAR game out, I'm more excited for you. And it's even tempted me to get it myself just to scratch that itch.
You can get it, and then we can bug Randy to get it. Maybe we'll just do like one really long.
That'd be really
race.
Hilarious. Yeah, a little squad.
He's always wanted to do endurance races in NASCAR. But no, this is really fun. It's a nice return to form. I've tried, the NASCAR Heat games that came out in the late 2010s, and those were fine. But this really feels like kind of a return to form, because you have the 4 divisions. You start at the bottom ranks and work your way up. And I don't know, it just feels good again. It's like it's made by iRacing, who branched off or evolved from Papyrus and Sierra, which made the original NASCAR racing games.
Yeah, we have a lot of love for Papyrus, and I think was one of our most influential games. You put that on your list as well for good reason, for racing sims and the paint booths and everything.
And then our favorite racing game.
That's
I put
right.
that in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one I've just been playing race after race. It's felt like a natural progression, where like I told you, I finished 15th. One lap down, and I felt like I had accomplished something. Whereas in other games, in arcade games and stuff, you're like, if you're not first, you're restarting.
Yeah, you get that. Yeah, you feel like you have to restart and get your points because you feel like it really matters, or it forces you to get in first, which is always the worst part of it.
Yeah. But no, I'm ready to just play that nonstop and see where I go. And I don't even mind that I'm not starting directly in the main series, the main NASCAR Cup Series, because they have a lot of licensed drivers in all the other ones, so it feels like I'm just, coming up through the ranks. They even have Frankie Muniz in the Truck Series, which is what really is happening.
You texted me that, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah,
from my reference, like it's just Malcolm in the Middle, so it's always crazy to me when I see certain celebrities I grew up with, and they've spun off into some other profession like this, because I would never connect Frankie Muniz in like NASCAR trucks or anything like that. It's really awesome. Yeah.
I knew he was into cars back then, but now he's like really taking this racing
into
thing
cars.
Like seriously.
Yeah. It's funny. It's awful because I don't think he has the best record, right? I think he's not.
No, he's kind of in the mid to backpack.
Yeah, and it's like sometimes I see people overly. I'll say it, like they talk shit online about it. I'm like, hey, like, what do you expect them to like start winning right off the bat? You know, like you have to fail before you win. You know?
Yeah, your grandpa has to own a team if you want to get into a really top of the line car.
Yeah, there you
which
go.
are some people in the NASCAR Cup Series. But
those Nepo NASCARs.
Yeah, he's starting from the bottom and he's working his way up, just like I am in the game.
See? So it's a perfect recreation of the experience. It's great.
I liken this comeback to like when college football came back last year with the NCAA 25, or people were just loving it and how it was different from Madden and everything. And I feel like Madden kind of needs this, where not to take time off because that's never going to happen, but like just some sort of reboot that gets people excited again. The
thing with that is I think they almost, like you said, they'll never take a year off because this stuff just makes too much money, which is also makes sense.
Yeah.
But it just feels like it needs that year off to sort of recalibrate itself, because I think the NCAA game that had been gone for like a long time, right? Like almost a decade.
Since 2014 or 15.
Yeah, right. So that had a long hiatus.
Yeah.
And I think Madden and like Assassin's Creed kind of did something similar. Like it's not related to sports, but they took a year off, and then the next team was pretty damn good. It wasn't amazing, but it's just that 1 year off kind of made people miss it more, and it kind of allowed them to just rework things like they needed, because Madden, I think, is at that point, like you said, NCAA needed, where it does need to reboot in a way, but at the same time, they're making so much money off of it. It's like they don't really need to care to reboot it either.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the games I've been playing, I've been still on Ghost of Yotei. I've been really loving that. It's another open world game, but it's great because I don't know how they've done this, but you just sort of organically happen upon side things and side quests as you explore in that game. And it's not like an overflow of icons or anything like that. You just kind of like see like a smoke coming from a house, and you might just come across it, and someone might flag you down or something. And the way it unfolds, all these side activities, it's really great. And there's also not just a ton of them. There's just enough strewn about the world. The story's getting really good. The whole story here is you play as someone who her family was murdered by the Saito clan, and he's sort of his bodyguards are like the Yotei 6. They're like these high-end bounty hunters.
Is it around the same time period as the first one, or is
I
it
think
like
it's
years?
long after
okay.
Tsushima, yeah, because it's
Cool.
sort of the idea here is like it's another story of a ghost coming up from the dead, so to speak. Because the character Atsu is believed to be dead because the Yotei 6 have killed her family, because they basically killed her dad because he left the clan, and that's sort of like a dishonorable thing to do. And they found him, and they ended up trying to kill the whole family. And the story unfolds where you're just trying to track down the Yotei 6. It almost reminds you of like a Hateful Eight kind of thing, in a sense, but with a samurai spin.
Or the Sinister Six.
Yeah, or Sinister Six, yeah. It's really cool because like I've put in like 25 hours, and like it doesn't feel like it. Like I've just been playing every night, and I'll get so far, I'll do like some missions, collect some extra stuff. And all since like 10:30, 11 o'clock, I was like, oh crap, like last 4 hours just gone by. What's going on here?
And it's always like, oh, you don't feel like you've progressed much, and maybe you put it down, and when you want to go back to it, you're like, maybe I'll restart. But then you realize how much you did in those 25 hours. You're like, no, I can't restart.
I can't. No. I did crank the difficulty up to hard, though, because the combat is really fun in here. But also I was finding myself just kind of slicing through everything fairly easily, and hard is a lot quicker. And also there's sort of like a rock, paper, scissors system here with like the weapons, where if someone comes at you with a pole, you want to use like your dual katanas to sort of be quicker and trump them or stun them.
They kind of did that in the first one, right?
They
With
did.
the fighting stances?
That's exactly, it's very similar to fighting stances up here. They're just distinct weapons.
Yeah.
And that's been really cool and hard because you have to really switch, and you also have to use your I'll call them gadgets, like your Nimpo kind of things, like your shurikens or kunai and whatnot.
Smoke bombs.
So there's a lot of things that it forces you to use on hard mode, and I've been really enjoying it. So it's just been even more fun with the combat, and you know me, I'm always all about combat. So I've been in the thick of that one. I've been more into Battlefield 6 since that came out, since we last spoke. Our friends have gotten as well. So I always say like these games, sometimes their enjoyment really hinges on like your group and how often you're playing, because I mentioned before with you, Deucy, like Call of Duty and Battlefield are usually pretty boring by myself. I'll sit there and play a fighting game for hours by myself because that's just the nature of it, and it's just quicker match by match. But these multiplayer shooters, like sometimes it's like, oh, I'm done. I'm over this. Like, there's only so many matches I can either take of losing or winning or just kind of getting shot down or whatever. But when you have a full squad, it's so much more fun because everyone's like doing their own roles. Like someone might be an engineer to repair the tanks that someone's pushing in with, or we have a supply person who like resupplies our ammo, which resupplies my rockets or something. So it really is fun when you have a full squad and you play with the dynamics of it. I will say the one thing that is just really sucks about this is, despite how big the game is, as far as like the matches, like there's 64 players, they still restricted only having 4 people in your party.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Which I think Call of Duty didn't do that for multiplayer, because you could have like 4 or 5 people and be on the same team.
You could have up to 6.
Right?
Was like
yeah,
6v6.
So I'm kind of shocked that like when we tried to play, there was 5 of us, and like I couldn't join their game because the squad is 4, which makes sense, but. It should allow like 6-player parties so you can at least join the game.
Yeah, isn't it like 32 on 32?
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so I was kind of shocked about that. We found out the hard way, unfortunately. So that's really my own big nitpick. Like everything else, it's going to get tweaked. Like there's still some things like with hit registration or some, with certain elements of the game. And I'm like, yeah, it seems like vehicles might be too powerful with how they spawn, or I need more rockets because I'll do like 3 direct hits and I won't destroy them. So that's stuff they could tweak. But the initial play so far has been a really great time. But again, that's based because I've been playing with 4 people pretty consistently.
Yeah, like I always found I had a fun time playing Call of Duty solo. Like if you and Randy weren't on, I would just go into the multiplayer, maybe grind out some guns or some skins or something. But they don't have small battles as an option in Battlefield. So I know I will not have fun unless I'm with other people that I know and can talk to.
They do have a smaller playlist that it's like for 10-minute games, which is really just domination from Call of Duty.
Oh, nice.
But again, like that's, it's like a small piece of Battlefield, because you're right, like to really get the Battlefield experience, like you could play solo and, it is possible. And it's like, I've done a few matches just to get my, kind of see how it feels. And it's not terrible. It's just not as fun when you have three of your buddies with you, just kind of shooting the shit and hanging out and, trying to go plot for a point and take it.
And actually have help, because like
that's also a big thing.
When I first got here, I watched you playing it solo and you died like 4 times, maybe got revived once, but like only gotten 2 kills out of that, and then still had to like go trudging back into the battle.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a big teammate problem, like anything, like any of these shooters. Call of Duty also does the same crap where it's like people just don't play the objective. Or, in this instance, like those walk right over you. It's like, I understand if there's people shooting at you, like, fine, I don't expect you. But when it's free and clear and you're literally just like, teabagging me practically, I know you can revive me.
Yeah.
So that's been a really good time. I've been enjoying that quite a bit. And the last game I'll talk about is one that just came out. It's Pokemon Legends ZA. This is the new Pokemon game that, like I said, just came out on Thursday as of this recording.
I do want to get that one too.
It's really cool. It's it looks like a Pokemon game. Like it looks great on Switch too. Like it's not a Donkey Kong Bonanza or like a Mario Kart World. As far as aesthetics, like it looks good, but it's also like at the same time, like the buildings are really simple. Like the graphics are simple for what they are.
I saw some people pointing that out. Like there's buildings with balconies, but the balconies are flat.
Yeah, so it's like it's one of those games where it's like it's kind of an ugly Switch 2 game, but it's also a Pokemon game at the same time. So it's I actually think the world of Arceus Legends was a little bit stronger just as far as like initial look, because this is like an urban kind of city world that you get to traverse in. But it's really cool so far. I've only got to play a couple hours, so there's a lot of tutorials, and the combat's a lot different than what I'm used to. It's more real time, which is kind of weird. So you have like your Pokemon's abilities are mapped to your face buttons when you hold like the trigger, and then each of those have sort of a cooldown, so you could sort of time them together. Like you could do tackle first, do your water gun, and then will that refill is go back to tackle, that kind of thing. And you can also reposition your Pokemon. I think distance also plays a factor with some abilities. So it seems like they've made the combat more dynamic and less static, which is always kind of a nice thing to introduce. It does look really good. Like I said, despite how simple the graphics are and the simple the geometry is, it actually looks really nice for a Switch game. And unlike the last 2 games that got crapped on for its performance, these run at a very solid 60. So there's that at least.
Yeah.
I think you really enjoy it through Deucy, because you're already into like Pokemon Go and everything like that. I'm sure this is probably just an extension of that in a sense.
I really liked Arceus and Let's Go Pikachu.
Yeah.
Like, the simplicity of that one. So yeah, I've really wanted to get into this one, and my wife like dominated in Violet. So
yeah, she'll probably, if she doesn't get this, I'll be shocked if she doesn't get this.
Well, she doesn't have the Switch 2. Is it on both?
It is.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's on Switch 1 and does have like an upgrade for Switch 2 if you had Switch 1 and went there.
Yeah.
But there's a Switch 1 version. I'm sure it doesn't run as well, which whatever. Like, you don't play Pokemon because it runs at 60 frames a second. You need that like precise timing. It'd be great, but it doesn't.
It's not like you're evading or anything.
Yeah.
You're dodging.
Actually, you do dodge a little bit in here too. But it's not like the timing matters, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But it's been a great time. It's hopefully I'll stick with this one because RPGs are always like hit or miss. Sometimes I'm just like, super in depth with them. Like I always go back to Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, where I was just like hooked on that kind of combat. And Pokemon is always just that one that is perfect for its portability. So it's like I could be playing on the Switch 2 while I'm watching something. And it's probably what's going to be. It's like I'll probably be like chipping away at it as I watch something else,
Yeah, I feel like I played a lot of Arceus. While I was watching some like D&D campaigns, those are usually like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, Christ. Yeah.
So yeah, I was playing a ton of Pokemon while watching those.
Yeah. See, I recommend, like, it's hard for it to say go wait for a sale because it's a Nintendo game. So the cheapest it'll go is like $45 in a year and a half. But it's Pokemon. It's going to sell a bajillion regardless of what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Deucy, I think it's time to get into some Devil May Cry. All right, Deucy, we're here at our main events. One of my favorite series on the PS2, one of my favorite Capcom series. Capcom, I've over time, I've realized how much I love Capcom. I think it's really probably just my favorite developer just because of how many games of theirs I make. I should say.
Definitely all the variety that they've done over the decades, from Nintendo until now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. So, Devil May Cry is another one of those amazing series. And as of this recording, we're actually kind of celebrating its 24th anniversary. It was released, I saw some say October 18th. I saw another October 17th. We'll call it both. It's fine. Sometime within the last couple of days in 2001, the first Devil May Cry was released. This was developed by Capcom Production Studio 4 and, of course, published by Capcom. At this time, Capcom had multiple studios within, Capcom, obviously, that were dedicated to different projects. And this one, number 4, happened to be dedicated to Devil May Cry. Later on, there was sort of a smaller team within the team announced. They were called like Team Little Devils, I think it was. But at this point, they're just Capcom Production Studio 4. So Devil May Cry was actually going to start out as a Resident Evil 4 game, which very shocking to me, but we can also see exactly why it didn't happen. So as early as 1999, they were trying to put together Resident Evil 4 because Resident Evil 3 was just coming out. I think it was in 99, right?
Yes.
Right? I think it was like fall 99.
Because Code Veronica was 2000, I want to say?
It was. Yeah. That was with the Dreamcast. Yeah. So they were already looking to Resident Evil 4, and they wanted to make something brand new. And we had Shinji Mikami. He was the creator of Resident Evil. He actually suggested that another person take directing duties for this. It was Hideki Kamiya, who he's done a lot of stuff at Capcom. He was a designer and planner for Resident Evil 1. He directed Resident Evil 2. And he's worked on a ton of games in Capcom and since Capcom, including some of my other favorites within Capcom, like Beautiful Joe and Bayonetta and Akami. Kamiya had the idea to create a cool and stylized action-adventure game with a narrative based on unraveling the mystery of this character named Tony, who's invincible and has these mysterious powers. So right off the bat, you could tell this was not going to be a proper Resident Evil game.
That sounds like whatever gave Wesker his powers gave Tony something.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of weird that it's related in that sense. Yeah, because Code Veronica X is when you find out Wesker has like these weird enhanced powers. Yeah, and that's kind of what Dante has in this game. Like you don't really know right away like what he's about, but he's powered by demons essentially.
It would have made sense for Kamiya to do this after directing Resident Evil 2 because 4 it could be a continuation of that. 3 was like the side story, and 4 he could have taken Leon, which I think Dante was going to be Leon.
Yes,
yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, and he could have taken that somewhere, but it's a good thing he went this direction.
Yeah, it's crazy that their initial idea for Resident Evil games spun off into its own series that is still going today, right? Because this was 2001 when Devil May Cry was released, and the most newest release was in 2019 with Devil May Cry 5. So, it's only been like 5 games, and they've had, a reboot in there that we'll talk about. So within 18 years, they've spun off a whole separate series that kind of established itself in its own way. During the initial sort of playing phases, Kamiya felt that Tony, this character, did not look brave or heroic enough with a fixed camera angle, which was, again, sort of a signature of Resident Evil at the time, where these fixed camera angles over pre-rendered backgrounds. So they switched to a more dynamic camera system, which also meant that everything was more 3D on the PS2. And they tried to make the coolness of the game fit in the world of Resident Evil, but obviously they realized that wasn't going to work. And they had to rewrite the story because it also just strayed so far from what Resident Evil was as well, which is a hilarious irony to me, considering what we got with Resident Evil 5, 6, and the movies.
And even 7 and 8.
And even 7 and 8, yeah.
Mold is now the enemy.
Exactly, yeah. But I would say at least 7 and 8, like, they're still rooting like the survival horror aspect, where like 5 and 6 of Resident Evil went to that total action movie route.
Well, yeah, like Devil May Cry fits right in with those, because if you want your main character to be a cool badass, you're not going to get the horror aspect. You're not going to be scared.
Yeah.
You're just going to want to go in and fight everything that comes at you.
Exactly, which is very much what this game does. Which we'll get into. Yeah. So Kamiya also set the story of this game in the world of demons, inspired by Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. This is a long narrative poem from the 1300s where it traces Dante's journey from darkness descending into the 9 circles of hell. And his guide in the poem is Virgil, which we find out later in the game is Dante's brother, which is kind of a funny, hilarious tie.
It's also funny that they were inspired by this, but then there's a whole other game that's based on
Dante's Inferno, which was done by, I think, the Dead Space devs that we talked about, EA Ruinous Shores and Bristol Games.
Oh, yeah.
So another kind of ironic twist there with what we just covered.
Yeah, and they did a really good job with that one, too.
Yeah, Dante's Inferno was great. It was a great God of War clone. Like, I don't think God of War is like or God of War clone is like a bad label. I think that's great. You should be compared to God of War.
Yeah.
And one big thing about this game, which I remember reading about this in, I think it was official PlayStation magazine, but a bug in Onimusha actually led to one of Devil May Cry's biggest mechanics. So during a playtest phase, Kamiya found a glitch in Onimusha where you could repeatedly juggle an enemy by slashing at them. And that became sort of a focal point for the combat system in Devil May Cry. He thought that'd be something cool to like make as an actual juggle mechanic in the main game.
Yeah, I remember that was in a lot of the trailers and commercials at the time. You just see Dante like spinning his swords and juggling and keeping somebody
shooting the
up.
guns at them and everything.
Yeah.
It was that's a great marketing hook more than anything else. And also, Kamiya said that difficulty for this game, which we'll also talk about because I think that's a big point of the series as well. This was meant to challenge players who played light casual games, which I think isn't. I don't know if he attained that goal necessarily, because I wouldn't say this is more for light and casual players.
Wait, Oh no! I think it's saying
it's
like,
meant to challenge them.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like this is too challenging.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's weird that like, why would he think that people who are playing light and casual in the first place are going to suddenly?
That's what I mean.
Come over to this.
Yeah, like they'll play Devil May Cry. It's like, yeah, I need more of this.
I don't think
not everyone can.
I don't think light and casual were even attempting Resident Evil at the time, and those were somewhat safer or easier.
I'd say safer. Yeah, I'd say by nature of the zombies being so slow, I think that's what helped more than anything else. Yeah. So we'll get into the story about this game a little bit here. Dante, he's a demon hunter in this game. He's in search of Mundus, which is this demon emperor that killed his brother and mother. He's attacked by a woman named Trish, who essentially tells him that Mundus is planning to return. So Dante then encounters all these powerful demons, including one named Neo Angelo, which is later revealed to be his brother Virgil, who he thought was dead. Dante enters the underworld to go after Trish because she's kidnapped, very much like a damsel in distress kind of thing, even though she's a bit of a badass in this game. She's definitely a big badass.
She like kick flips a motorcycle at Dante.
Yeah, and that's how the game starts.
Yeah.
that's one of the first things you see in the game. And the whole thing here is that when he goes in the underworld with Trish, she ends up sacrificing herself, and his emotions trigger the power of Sparta, because Sparta is Dante and Virgil's dad. He's sort of like the ultimate demon hunter. He's like, half demon. I think Sparta's like full demon.
I think he was full demon.
He was full demon, and then he mated with a human woman,
and
that's how the twins were born, Dante and Virgil. So once that sort of transforms Dante into like this superpower Dante with his Devil Trigger, Trish ends up returning, and Dante gives her power to kill Mundus, and they escape as this place is called Mallet Island, which is kind of weird. So I guess we'll get into reviews here just before we get into the impressions and the bits and pieces of the game. So reviews, we have EGM issue 149, December 2001. These are all out of 10. These are 9, 8.5, a 9. Best feature, fluid controls. Worst feature, laughable dialogue.
Well, that, fits with Capcom at the time.
It does. I think it fits with most games in the early 2000s. Yeah. I think most people are still trying to figure out that voice acting thing.
I would say this is an improvement over a lot of the Resident Evil.
I would say so. Yeah. There's definitely a sort of a scale, because you have Resident Evil 1, which had like the cheesiest voice acting, which we later would learn that's a lot because of just translation issues. Actors were given parts of the story without context.
Yeah, and they were just finding like English-speaking Japanese people living in Japan.
Right, so there's a little bit more depth to why that is, why the voice acting was what it was.
I think,
but they've been getting better over years.
2 was a good improvement over 1, and then Code Veronica was probably a good improvement over the
they were stepping
previous
up.
ones. Yeah, and so Yeah, Devil May Cry was just the next natural thing. I'd equate it to like a B movie horror or action.
It's super tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fair to say. Like, this game is... You won't take the story seriously. Like, there's really not a whole lot of character depth. Like, you know, Dante is just this smack-talking badass, which is just very stylish. And that's fine. That's like the sort of like the Jean-Claude Van Damme, like, late 80s action movies kind of idea, where it's like these guys are very suave and smooth, and there's these big badasses who are basically indestructible, one way or another. So EGM also mentioned that they loved, well, actually, I should say, one reviewer loved Resident Evil, but said Devil May Cry was a breath of fresh air, as Dante is a smack-talking, one-man, badass killing machine. Controls are seamless and intuitive, and they like to focus on action with minimal puzzles or notes. I would say, like, in most games, I would say that's like a bad thing, because I love lore like that. But in this game, you don't need that. So I think the few pieces they have, it's fine.
In fact, the few pieces that they do have almost seem out of place.
They do.
Because, like, your backtracking is sort of forced on you. And, like, you see a door that needs a key, and you're like, oh, no, I got to go find this key. There's only one key for that one door, and you'll never need that key again. It's not like Resident Evil that opens up multiple paths.
It's just the one path we need to cross.
You're like, oh, why couldn't you have made that, like, kill 15 enemies and then it opens or something, or one enemy drops the key while you're fighting them in the same room or something.
There are some areas that are some doorways where you have to kill like the horde of enemies to open up the hand that blocks it. But you know, that's few and far between. It's like you said, most of the time these puzzles, quote unquote, are really just go grab this one thing from three doors over, bring it over here to unlock this door. Which, in
fact, one of the ones you grab an item and then it says mission completed, and you're like, wait, what?
I did that too.
I was like, I didn't finish what you guys set me out to do. And then when the next mission starts, you walk over to the door and you put the thing in, and you're like, why couldn't you let me do that in the last mission?
Yeah, I'll talk about that, because I feel like there's definitely sort of a weird balance of the length of levels in this game, which again, like just the nature of the early 2000s, it's just what it was. But it's like the series would get better later on with like the length, because I did the same thing you did, where I replayed this. I was like, wait a minute, that was like a minute long.
Yeah.
What? I don't remember this. Yeah. Also, going back to EGM, the reviewer who gave an 8.5 said he loved the action and parallels to its RE origins, but he said it was a tough game and cameras and controls seemed to fail him when he needed it most. That's mostly about obscure views and the camera switching, which I think is fair. Yeah. And one reviewer, I thought this was kind of funny he mentioned this. He said that Devil May Cry is what Castlevania 3D should have been, which I completely agree with him there.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Castlevania 64, I think... We've only done Castlevania 3, right? And Symphony of the Night. I don't think we've done many Castlevania episodes. I think we should do more Castlevania episodes. But it'd be fun to cover the 3D era, because 64 is a fun one to talk about for all the wrong reasons.
It's weird. I rented that and I enjoyed it at the time, but I also hadn't played too many other Castlevanias.
Well, it's not, like I enjoyed it at the time too, but again, like going to Symphony of the Night, you're like, oh, geez, like this is such a huge difference. So it's like, maybe the 3D one maybe gets crapped on a little bit too much, but it's also not a good game either. But I think it's be fun to talk about because of its significance in the series and what it did wrong. GamePro, I got another review from GamePro here. This is issue 158, November 2001. These are all out of 5. So the graphics got a 5, sound a 5, control 4.5, fun factor 4.5. This reviewer loved the fast-paced action, especially when compared to Onimusha's traditional RE approach.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic graphics and intuitive controls. The only wish that they were customizable controls, which, I guess that's like a thing to complain about. Why you got a 4.5? That's fair.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Square and circle, or if you're playing like X and B on Xbox, they do the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know why that's the case. But I mean, back then, like, they were refined as it goes on, but this was weird how the controls were set up. Because, like, on PS2 when it's launched, like, triangle was slash, circle was like, I think that was like, X was jump.
Yeah.
And circle was, I think it also shot, just like X or square did. Yeah. And then one note they also said that Devil May Cry raises the bar for PS2 games, which I do want to talk about in a bit too, about how significant this game was in 2001, which itself was a gigantic year for gaming in general.
Wasn't that also the Grand Theft Auto year?
It was Grand Theft Auto. It was Metal Gear Solid 2.
Oh, yeah.
And Super Smash Bros. Melee, the launch of the Xbox and Halo, GameCube. We could do a whole episode in 2001. Yeah. There's so much that came out that year, and this was one of them. So let's get into the game, Deucy, because for me, I remember getting this. Well, I should say, I remember seeing this announced back then, and I'd heard it was from Capcom, so I was instantly interested at the time. And I had heard how it was supposed to have been a Resident Evil game, which we could talk about how, like, you could tell this was going to be a Resident Evil game down to the freaking font is exact in a Resident Evil game.
The font and the sound effects when you're just, selecting things in the menu.
Yeah.
And the save areas and just the green text to point out key terms and items and stuff like that. It was kind of like laughable, especially when we also did the Onimusha episode a while back. They did the exact same thing. It was like Capcom had this one template and we're going to use it for every game in the 2000s.
Well, I think that's what's amazing about this game too is in relation to everything else Capcom had done before this, right? Because you could argue at this point Resident Evil was getting sort of long in the tooth, right? You had Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3. You had Code Veronica, and those are all kind of the same, like you said, template where it's fixed camera angles, with the exception of Code Veronica, which had a little bit more dynamism because it was 3D.
Yeah.
But same principle, right? It was just fixed camera angles, survival horrors, slow zombies, and you have Onimusha, which was really a big PS2 game at the time because it looked like an amazing, sort of Japanese Resident Evil game. And then you have Devil May Cry in 2001, which just is like a kick to the balls compared to the Resident Evil games.
It was the way Onimusha and Resident Evil should evolve into. They were like, follow the Devil May Cry template now.
Yeah, they really, this is sort of like if you were expecting sort of a reinvention of Resident Evil at the time, this is probably what you'd expect. And it's just really fascinating to me that this, again, was a Resident Evil game. And you could tell how much it could have been a Resident Evil game. But they spun it off into this really amazing action, fast-paced game.
It's weird that they had the control scheme the way it was. It wasn't tank controls anymore. It was based on how the camera was. Your stick would move in that direction. And it took Resident Evil like 2 or 3 more iterations, and Onimusha, I think, had tank controls the whole way through, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. I don't think even Dawn of Dreams had.
For
3D.
some reason, none of them wanted to adopt this new, somewhat easier way of doing things. Because like I was telling you before we got on, I was impressed with, there's camera swaps in this because of the fixed camera angle. Mm-hmm. But when you're like, say, running to the right and you're holding right, and then the camera changes, it gives you an extra second or two to move your stick so that Dante doesn't stop moving. Whereas like Resident Evil, you're walking, and then as soon as the camera changes, you're walking the wrong way.
Yeah, you might be walking backwards in the scene you just walked out
I was like, it's as simple as that. Give us a little bit of a delay in the stick input, and it would be so much smoother for those other games.
Yeah, in this game, I want to talk about the 3D environments and how they're so different from Resident Evil. Like, for one, they're fully 3D, so they just look more detailed. They don't look as sort of blurry as like the pre-rendered backgrounds.
You can jump, so there's verticality.
There's verticality for sure. Yeah, you can jump. Dante, the character itself, he's just, again, like he's very stylish. That's kind of representative of the early 2000s. Like he's got this silver white hair that looks kind of cool. He's got like this red overcoat kind of thing. And then in the first level, you are impaled by this sword named Alistor.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like it's literally impaling you, and then like he ends up,
and then you lift him, lift yourself
through the
up.
Sword.
Yeah, I was like, oh come on now.
Yeah, because the idea is like again, like you don't really know what Dante is necessarily. He's considered a Nephilim, which is sort of half demon, half human.
Yeah,
and one of the big things in this game is the double trigger as well, which you could talk about, where you're sort of your attacks are enhanced. You have a whole new set of abilities. It's sort of like going in like a supersonic mode for Dante, and like he runs faster. His bullets are powered like demon power, and that's the big thing about this game too. Is that it's set up in a mission structure, which again is very different than what Resident Evil was doing. Where Resident Evil was once sort of one contiguous level, so to speak, where it's like you have these different sections. You would kind of get these puzzles to lead you to new areas.
It was like if anybody's played the original Resident Evil 4 and 5.
Yeah, that's a good parallel.
That's when they started doing missions.
That's actually kind of funny. This probably influenced that same structure.
Yeah.
In a sense. Yeah. So in this game, there's I think there's like 23 total missions. They all have varying length. Like Deucy mentioned, like some it's like 23 sounds like a long time, and I think this is like a solid 12-hour game, 15 depending on your first run through. But there are some levels where it's like you might have to go flip a switch and the level's over in a minute or something. Like I did the same thing in Mission 4, where I think you just have to basically go down this shaft and use the key, and then the level's over. It's like, oh, that was literally 56 seconds. Why?
Mission 3, when you're fighting that boss, but there's this long preamble to the boss that is not needed. Like you walk down this long path, and then you read a stone thing at the end, and it says turn around and go to the former path, and I'm like, oh, what? I just have to turn around again.
It's kind of cryptic, but I also wonder if it's like intentionally cryptic or just mistranslations, because it seems some of the stuff is just kind of obtuse and, like you said, inconsequential to actually what's going on.
I mean, why did I have to walk all the way? As I'm walking to that thing, have the bridge collapse like it does.
Yeah.
And then just get me into the boss fight quicker.
Yeah. I think that's like a trope of the early 2000s games too, though, where they did that kind of gimmick where it's like you're backtracking a lot to sort of pad the game.
Yeah.
And there's stuff like, you're right, you're walking on this bridge, you apparently trigger it through this one thing, go back, and then you fall through, which kind of silly, kind of Zelda-ish, I guess, but it's whatever. This game makes everything it does. It makes it work for the game, because really the front and center here is just like the action and the combat more than anything else. There's like this really crazy soundtrack that's going in the background, like just sort of like, I don't know, like synth metal kind of stuff going on.
Very 2000s.
It is super 2000s for sure in this one, yeah.
For those people who have ever seen Batman Beyond, just think of the intro to that.
Yeah, that's a good parallel. And then Dante, in addition to his normal abilities that you just sort of have as when you play as Dante before you trigger double trigger, you can actually buy more abilities. I think that's literally the biggest thing in this game too, is you now have a currency system with the red orbs and a sort of a styling gauge that runs parallel to that as well, where the better you do with your combos, which means more variation, not getting hit by enemies, you're awarded more red orbs, and you're also awarded like health pickups, like the green orbs, and those are your currency to buy new abilities. And there's quite a few abilities in here. There's like a stinger, which is like this sort of forward stabbing motion with your sword. There's one where it's a double jump, which adds some crazy mobility to Dante. There's like ones for your devil trigger where it's like he turns into like this psycho crushing devil trigger or devil torpedo thing, like he spins at them. This game does a lot to make use of the controller in a lot of ways, and I think it's a little bit difficult to grapple if you're not used to this kind of game, but no one was at this time. This was like, I think this felt like it was totally unlike anything else I had played back then.
Oh, for sure. But the weirdest thing I thought, especially compared to the reboot that we'll talk about, is like you still have to hold R1 or right bumper to bring up your pistols like it's Resident Evil.
Yeah, I had to get used to that too, even in the HD collection. I was like, oh, I don't remember this, because in later games you don't have to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it tripped me out. I was like, I'm holding R1, I have to mash, and it's also a lock-on thing too. It's not so freeform, yeah.
But when you're using the sword, which I think I use more, you don't have to lock on really with the R1. You just push triangle or Y, and boom, you're slashing. You're doing combo slashes. It's just it just struck me as funny that like, oh, remember to hold R1 to aim.
It's also a lot slower than I remember, because like you typically in this game you don't want to. There's never a time you don't want to be doing anything. So it's like you always want to be shooting your gun. You always want to be slashing at something. Like even if you're shooting at a distance, you're still damaging enemies. Because one thing I want to talk about too is the difficulty of this game, that especially at the time. But you always want to be active as Dante, and also beyond that, you also want to keep your combo active as well, because again, you want to get that bigger payout, which is not required. And there is a ranking system at the end of the levels, which is great if you want that replayability, where it's like if you get hit so few times, or if you don't use items, if you keep your style meter high, you get like a up to an S rank awarded, which then gets you more orbs. I don't know if it gets you anything in the first game if you get all S's or anything. I don't remember at least.
I don't know about the final, because I definitely did not rank S in a lot of stuff.
It's pretty damn difficult. Like the combo system in this game, it's pretty versatile, but it's also hard to keep your style up, because that's the other thing. It's like as you're going along, you have to keep your move variety going, because otherwise the style goes down.
Also, it's weird that like in the beginning of the game, you don't have much of a move variety.
It's really hard in the beginning. Exactly. Like you only have so many abilities that you have to buy, and they're all fairly expensive because you don't get a whole big payout from killing enemies.
Yeah, that was another thing I noticed that I forgot about. I remembered the red orbs. It was similar to Onimusha and those orbs. But this felt like you're getting very little when it comes to the prices of things. Yeah,
like, I mean, even the first ability you want to get is Stinger level 2, which pushes you even more forward. That's honestly one of the best abilities in the game, just by nature, because it does so much damage, it covers so much ground. I know speedrunners use it all the time, too, because that's like their preferred way to travel, so to speak.
Yeah.
But even that's like 1,500 orbs, and you have to save through that for a few levels unless you kind of grind. So I think there is that cool aspect, too, where it's like, if you do need to grind, you can do that. You can replay previous missions and get more orbs to level up your abilities, which will only help so much. Plus, you can buy health increases but those incrementally get expensive as well. So like the first one might be like 1,000, the next one might be 1,500. So you have to kind of be cautious about that. And there's also secret missions in this game, which they're kind of hidden. They're really just like, you might open a door and it leads you to like a mission where you have to destroy all the enemies or, make it to an end or something like that. They're really kind of basic, but you get a blue ore fragment, which once you collect 4, increases Dante's health. There's also pickups to increase Dante's Devil Trigger, which you want, because in Devil Trigger, not only are you more powerful, but you also recover health in the middle of that too. So that could be sort of a great get out of jail free card, so to speak.
Oh, I activated that recently on a boss, and I didn't seem to be.
It's not super fast. Yeah, so that's the thing is like it helps, but at the same time, you also have to make sure you're not getting hit while you're charging because it's pretty slow.
Yeah, we were trading blows when I was doing that.
Yeah, exactly. You're really just keeping yourself alive as much as you can.
Yeah.
And I guess we talk about the difficulty of this game now because I feel like this was a big topic back then, and it still kind of is for many games now. But this game is not the easiest game to get into, I will say. There is an easy mode that unlocks a few levels in, or if you just happen to continue more than a handful of times in the beginning and it says like you want to knock it down to easy, right, which is very manageable. Again, I'm always happy when games include like an easy mode because some games just want people to experience, and sometimes you have to knock the difficulty down. I think that's totally fair to do.
Yeah, voice acting aside, this does have an interesting story when it comes to devils and angels and
things
like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I knew about the lower mode because I got this much later in life. I had to have been already living with Mike and...
Oh man, you got it that late?
No. It was still when PlayStation 2 was... it was probably towards the end of that life when the box set came out.
I was going to say, I thought you had the triple pack.
Yeah, I got the triple one, and I wanted
like 06, 07.
I wanted to play them in order, so I played the first one. I don't think I played the first one until later, until I was... and I did not know that it was infamously hard. I just played through it. I might have died and restarted a few times, but it wasn't the typical frustrating... like. When I text you about something, I am frustrated.
Yep.
But I don't remember ever really talking to you about it. So I feel like I just kind of made my way through the game, and I was like, yeah, this is fun. And then I finished.
Yeah, it's. I will say, so when I got this, I was like 15, I was just about 16 when this came out. And, I played, like, we grew up in Nintendo, so we knew about difficult games. And I'm sure stuff I played that was pretty difficult. This one was... it definitely had a learning curve because the first boss in here, which I even put on my notes and you saw, he's this crazy big spider boss you're fighting in this cathedral, and he moves pretty fast. He's really gigantic, which again is representative of how huge PS2 was that it could display this kind of stuff.
There's annoying pillars that get in your way.
Yeah, there's these volcanic pillars. He has a beam, and also I forgot that you could very much like in Zelda with the wizard at the end. I forgot the name.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you can you could slash back the fireballs.
Yeah.
You could do that with the Phantom Spider boss, which is kind of crazy. Yeah.
Damn.
Which I found out, I remembered accidentally when I played through again because I was like, oh yeah, you could do that. You just have to time it right, obviously, because it comes at you pretty fast and you have to be at a distance, but it does hit it. But that first boss took me so many tries when I was 16 because that's definitely sort of like the litmus test where it's like, if you get past that first boss, it kind of gives you the game's grammar, so to speak, where it's like, what to expect moving forward and like how you really have to watch your enemies' attacks and what they do, because a lot of the enemies here, they're pretty aggressive, but they're totally manageable if you know how to use your combat abilities.
I don't remember him being that difficult, like I said, the first time I played through this, but this time I even read your notes first, and it said in Mission 3, there was this really difficult boss that Bob and I had trouble with. And so I'm looking at my menu and I'm like, oh, here comes Mission 3. I didn't go into the store and get any healing items. Mm-hmm. And so I started it up and I thought, oh, well, there's going to be one of those little statues that act as a store mid-level. Nope. And like I said, you walk across this bridge a couple times for no reason, and then you fall into the boss fight. And I'm like, oh, crap. But I got him down fairly low. I used 2 devil triggers and I was doing pretty good. And then the camera angle changed and I got stuck and his fire pillar got me.
That can happen for sure.
And I was like, oh, yeah. I would have had him even without any health items. I would have had him on my first try, but I could have probably used some if I had remembered.
I actually beat him on the first try this run, which I was kind of surprised. Like I did by the skin of my teeth, though. Like I was literally like one hit away. Where it's like, you know, I knew he had a couple hits. I'm like, I just have to hit him.
Yeah,
that's all you got to do. Just that one hit. And I was lucky I got through him because, frankly, like with Devil May Cry games, I'm pretty stubborn buying the health items because I feel like red orbs can be so precious, and I want to get abilities with them. So it's like I don't want to waste it on health items necessarily. So it's like I'm pretty stubborn unless I'm like, all right, I have to get it now.
Yeah.
But I was surprised I beat him on the first try, and then. I think it's in the next level, you fight Nilo Angelo. I don't know if you got into him yet.
No, because I died at the spider.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Dante. Like, he's got this big old sword. It kind of looks like the Soul Calibur sword that Siegfried has, like Soul Edge. Yeah. And I beat him on the first try too, but it's also, you know, I'm a lot older now, but I realize like, you know, you can sort of utilize the invisibility frames of the roll once you get used to that. Because I think that's one thing I was telling you before record that sucks about the roll is that Dante does have sort of a defensive roll, but it's side to side and it's relative to Dante's front facing position, so not camera position. So if Dante is facing east, you have to hit north or south with X to roll, right?
Yeah.
You can't do like left or right. So you have to wrap your mind around that to be able to use invincibility frames. But I think that's what this game really excels at is that despite its challenge, whether it's too difficult or just right, which I think as I'm older, I realize it's just right. And it's also because I played more difficult games since then.
More difficult ones in the series.
Yeah, more difficult in the series for sure.
Yeah.
But this game really does sort of train you in a way, sometimes by fire, literally, to sort of use your abilities and like find some alternate way to beat a boss. Because I remember when I fought the spider the first time, I realized I could use the, I think they call it the Helm Breaker, where you jump up and slam down.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could dodge most of attacks, and by the time you come down, you hit him in the face. Because the spider's only damage, you can only damage him in the front of his face, not when he has like his legs up blocking him. So it's like once you get used to like these strategies that work for you, it becomes a much more manageable game to play through.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't remember having too much difficulty with them, but I did notice in this one though, he holds his arms up a lot, and I was like, am I even able to damage him if I'm not in Devil Trigger mode?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing is that's why we do the Helmbreaker thing, because that would kind of break him through, and I think it also makes him stagger a little too, right? So I think that's once I discovered that, it was a lot more manageable to do. But again, like I also think you could jump on his back too, if I recall, and you could slash him there.
Oh. I did not even try because
I forgot about that till just now. It's
not only is he a spider, but then he also gets a scorpion tail out of nowhere.
Yeah, which makes even less sense.
Yeah.
And it's also funny because then in the beginning of the next level, you go through a door and then he's chasing you, which is a really cool effect. He's basically engulfing the whole backside, and like you're coming. It's almost like the Indiana Jones boulder coming at you, except it's a giant spider. And it's actually really cool because you're then, as Dante, running towards the screen away from the spider. And
like Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, like Crash Bandicoot. And you could technically fight him and kill him. And I don't know, you probably get red orbs, but I just ran and went through the door because then he just despawns. But I thought that was like a really cool sort of dynamic thing. It's like he's dead, but no, he has one life left in him. He's still trying to chase you.
You could actually turn and fight him?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Because I think also that's where you can... do this. You can slash your fireballs back, and I think that's probably the best way to kill him, if I recall. I don't know what you get. I'm sure you probably get a trophy on Xbox and PS5 now or something.
I would hope it's like some sort of secret thing too. I know this game, like Resident Evil, has like secret unlocks and stuff like that.
Yeah, what's also crazy is if you didn't think the game was difficult enough on normal, there are more difficulty levels. There's one that's infamously called Dante Must Die, where everything is just. It's really just enemies take more damage and they do more damage, which it's freaking brutal. But I know a lot of people get a rush out of that. Like I know my brother, he beat Devil May Cry 3 on Dante Must Die, I recall, which is really brutal. But he also grinded that game a ton. Like that was his favorite game in the series by far.
Isn't that game like kind of infamously known as the most difficult of the trilogy?
It is because the US version, for some reason, the US normal on Devil May Cry 3, this is the original, not special edition, which came out a year later. The regular version, the US normal is Japanese hard for some reason, and then US easy is Japanese normal. So that game is brutal just on normal.
Yeah.
It's really freaking hard. So it's even more impressive with my brother, who was, I think it was like 16 at the time, 15, 16, was just all in the Devil May Cry 3. Like, he played that for, it felt like for months. So I'd love to cover that at some point. Maybe we could have him on here because he would just be gushing about the game the whole time.
Yeah, let me actually play it first.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get you up to date on Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then later on in this game, so out of those 23 missions, you do have a little bit of variety. Like, there's some weird underwater sections. I don't know if you remember those, Deucy, where you have like that weird sort of spear gun.
Oh, no, not that.
You're in first person there, too. It's weird.
Oh, I don't remember that part. I did get to a part where he falls in the bridge and he's underwater and his life is constantly going down.
Oh, that's a different level.
Yeah.
This is like way later. This is almost towards the end of the game, and I think even towards the end, you fight like on a biplane or something like that when you escape. I think it's like a shoot 'em up thing. I can't fully recall because I didn't get through it on this playthrough.
Oh yeah, because there is in one of the little castle areas. There's like a plane just sitting there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you just take off with that, if I recall correctly. It's been 20 years since I beat this. I think somewhere around there, maybe 15, somewhere around there. So this game again, it's like cheesy B action, but it looks really great. I also would say the art style is really strong in here. Like it has this really strong gothic presence, and the music, despite sounding like Resident Evil, is very moody and fits kind of like that Resident Evil atmosphere.
It's got two music modes where one, like you said, is the atmosphere. At some points it even sounds like it's going to be the save room, like the calming music to it.
That swelling orchestral stuff. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But then it switches when you get into battle, and that's when it becomes 2000.
Yeah, it does. And I think, I'd say it's fair that this is probably influenced by Matrix in some way, like everything was in the early 2000s, because again, the Matrix was that's really my favorite movie of all time, just above all else. But that movie was highly influential for just everything it did with stylizing action movies, and games definitely took a page from the Matrix in the early 2000s.
Max Payne, built its entire reputation on the Matrix.
On the bullet time. Oh my god, yeah, exactly. So overall, Deucy, I guess we could, before we move on to the reboots, any final words on the original Devil May Cry?
This is like a really fun time, but like, I don't remember specifics about it, even though I know I beat it. I remember like the final battle, you're in constant devil trigger form, aren't you?
Yeah,
you're flying
and I think it's really cool when games do at the end, where it's like you're sort of at like the point where maybe you struggle through the game, whether it's difficult or not, but then you're like super proud at the end, you just like destroy everything. I always think that's sort of like a satisfying catharsis, where it's like you're just finishing the game and like you're unhinged at that point.
It's like you've been talking all this mess the entire time. It's time to show what you can do. So various parts of it have stuck with me throughout all these years, even if I don't remember the specific levels and everything. And I think that's the sign of a good, like, timeless game, is like you even forgot some parts too, but you just know that you really like this series and you're gonna want to play anything else with the name of it. Yeah,
and I think the PS2 had a ton of significant games that I think were just influential for gaming in general, because I always say, like, I think the generation leap between PS1 and PS2 is something that we probably won't see ever, if not for a very long time. Because I think that was like, as far as how the games played, how they looked, it was just night and day between PS1 and the PS2. And this game is very representative of that sort of first foot into the next generation of gaming, where it had like the insane visuals, the quick combat, like. Another thing too, like this game runs really well for, like it looks dated, but I'm pretty sure it ran at like 60 frames a second back then, which super smooth for as much stuff going on and as big as the environments are.
And is like, at some points there are a lot of enemies in one small space.
Yeah, and again, you'll fight like a ton of variety of enemies in here too. Like there's the marionettes, you'll fight like this weird panther cat thing that's like kind of ghost-like in a way. You fight these crazy reapers that have like these giant scissor-sized things.
Scissors, yeah, and they're laughing like evil witches.
Yeah, and it's just, this game has such an amazing style, which again is such a signature of it. But I think it does it so well, and again, like it just represents like the best of PS2, especially early on, because this was within the first year of the PS2. PS2 was like October 2000 for the US, and this is within the year. I feel like that's when a lot of systems get their groove. It's like that second year. And this is a great title with that too. I mean, also Crystal Metal Black came out this year. We talked about Grand Theft Auto, Metal Gear Solid 2. This was a huge year for PS2.
I think when you think of PS2 and you think of Grand Theft Auto 3 and Metal Gear 2, I'd argue you also think of Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I would say so, because it's all, and Silent Hill 2 is also 2001 as well, I think. So again, like you have that group of games, like those are some all-time great games. Like you're still talking about 25 years later, pretty much, right? So yeah, this Devil May Cry and that whole batch of PS2 games in 01, you could totally put them together and be like, this is your PS2 library, and this is a good representation of how good the PS2 was.
Was Devil May Cry 4 on 360 or on Xbox One?
It was 360 and PS3.
Oh, okay.
It was 2008. That was like the early next gen showcase, but also suffer from the next gen issue where it's like, it had two characters, Dante and Nero, and they both had, I think it was like 15, 16 missions each, but they're the exact same thing backwards. Again, like Devil May Cry 2 actually.
Oh yeah,
they had two characters, but their individual campaigns were basically the same thing, which not kind of cool that they made two campaigns out of it, but at the same time you're playing the same campaign over and over, right?
I don't think did Kamiya do 2?
That was Hideaki Itsuno, because there's a whole story there about how in the middle of development, or I think it was towards the end of development of Devil May Cry 1, Kamiya found out that they were making Devil May Cry 2 because one of the developers is like, he asked for like the design document and some other doc. He's like, you're making a Devil May Cry 2
without me? What the hell?
So and the story is apparently like he thought he was getting fired, but they just put him on other projects. He ended up working on like Beautiful Joe 2, or Beautiful Joe 1, I should say.
Oh, cool.
So I think it's one of those things where I don't know how that whole story happened with them going to 2, but yeah, Kamiya did not direct 2, which is weird.
I mean, it would have been so much better because he did Resident Evil 2, which has a 2 storyline thing, 2 characters. You could have had the zapping system for Devil May Cry 2.
Hey, they could have, yeah. And I think, I don't want to say they tried too hard to make it like that, but I think with Devil May Cry 2, which again we'll cover at some point, but they were so desperate to get a second female character in there because the story was that people were upset you couldn't play as Trish in the first game, so they wanted to include that sort of like Bond-like female lead in a way with Lucia. Except it didn't really work. It was just sort of like, the intent was there, but it was almost like an afterthought because she really didn't make a difference as far as the campaign or anything like that. So, great idea for a sequel, just maybe not execute so well.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Deucy, now we're going to talk about the reboot, the much controversial, very divisive game that I, frankly, really, really love.
Yeah.
I think is overhated, frankly. This was released in 2013. It's actually called DMC Devil May Cry. It was released January 15th, 2013. This was developed by Ninja Theory and published by Capcom. If you're not familiar with Ninja Theory, they did Heavenly Sword, which was a huge PS3 game at the time. Like that game, it's,
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I remember that game was more of like one of those QTE kind of games where it's like the combat was really just more artistic and visual than it was like meaty.
Skill-based,
yeah. And they also did Enslaved Odyssey of the West, which I think is a very underrated game. And they also did Disney Infinity. Like that, remember that Toy to Life thing that was around for a while?
Yeah.
They worked on that. And more infamously and recently, Hellblade 1 and 2, which despite my disappointment with 2, I still think it's a pretty gorgeous game. I think it's a cool game. It's just not my kind of game. But Hellblade 1, really fantastic. And also, just one note here, the definitive edition of Devil May Cry, the reboot, released in 2015, which I'd say that is the ideal way to play. Definitely pick it up. It's almost on sale for like $10 all the time.
Constantly on sale.
And it's absolutely worth it.
I think I got it with Games with Gold back when they were doing
I think
the
you had to have, because I was like, how did you have it? I don't remember you buying this after me telling you to get it or something. Yeah, especially the definitive edition. Yeah. So this game has an interesting story because it is a reboot. I gave this game a shout out on a reboots episode because of how much I love this game.
I was so surprised that this came out after 4.
I know, because I think in one of the last episodes you're asking like, wouldn't it come out before? It's like, no, this was after 4.
Because like I felt like the way this one was received, it would lead them to go back to the original Dante in 4 and 5.
It makes sense. Like you're like, okay, well, this is response. Let's recalibrate and go back to the original.
Yeah.
So this game has a pretty interesting story, and it's all rooted in the controversial redesign of Dante. But really, at this point in time, Capcom wanted to reboot the Devil May Cry series, despite how successful Devil May Cry 4 was. And my criticisms of it, like with the whole duplicative campaigns and like Dante and Nero not really feeling too different as far as like their single player missions. It didn't matter because obviously that sold well. Like I still think Devil May Cry 4 is a great game. It's just I didn't like it as much as Devil May Cry 3 is really what it was. It wasn't Devil May Cry 3, which isn't really fair to Devil May Cry 4.
How much time between God of War 3 or any of the God of Wars of the originals and then the PS4 or the
Devil May Cry 4?
No, the God of War, the one that's just God of War, not...
Oh, that was 2018.
Okay, and then when was like the end of the original trilogy and the original Kratos type?
Probably 2007-ish, somewhere around there. I don't know when they released... Because I don't know when they released God of War Ascension, which was like the last PS3 God of War. I think that was like maybe 2010, maybe that was the latest. I don't know.
Like that's the amount of time you need between reboots.
Yes.
Like 5 years, and 4 was, I feel like, pretty well accepted.
It was well received. It got
Yeah.
really good reviews. I think it was like in the 80s, which, I mean, 85-ish, somewhere around there. It was really fantastic.
And then just 5 years later, all of a sudden you flip a switch and say reboot time. No, that doesn't make sense.
It's weird because the story here is that Capcom had seen how other series were doing reboots, which I couldn't think of any other examples. Frankly, I'd have to go dig a little bit deeper. But it seems that they saw how reboots were sort of the new fashionable thing, which
maybe
is,
in movies too.
in movies too. But reboots even now are still fashionable, right?
Yeah.
Like Red Lobster for that reason about it. So it's just one of those things where they probably saw that there was an opportunity to reboot the series, and they wanted to go seize it. So they went with Ninja Theory because they saw what they had done with Heavenly Sword, and they thought they could be a really good developer for that. And aside from Ninja Theory, like whether the games are good or bad, I think one strong point in throughout all their games, like if you look at Enslaved, Heavenly Sword, and especially Hellblade, they all have this very strong art style that really does immerse you in the worlds that they're building, and they're very distinct. You can't really confuse their games with any other games necessarily, right? They're just very thoughtful, very distinct, and you could tell they have a really strong art team, in their office there. So they went with them because of Heavenly Sword, and Capcom was also heavily involved with the combat system, which you can tell when you play this, because I think the combat is like the strongest point, and frankly, the combat system here is one of the best in the entire series.
Yeah, I want this like copied and pasted back on the old original Devil May Cry.
Yeah, it is. Again, like we'll talk about the Dante redesign here in a minute, but despite that, like it's unfortunate that people hate this game so much. I know it sold reasonably well, but it didn't sell as well as they wanted, obviously, because of the nature of how divisive it was.
Yeah.
But the combat is just one of the best you'll play in an action game. This was, again, 12 years ago when it originally came out. It's just really fun. There's a lot of moves. It's just, it's really great. It's unfortunate that just people are looking at it at face value and not taking it for what it is.
Some of the reviewers in the last one we did, in the original, were talking about how fast-paced and how it flowed. But compared to this one, that one is like Resident Evil.
Yeah, it's very, if you compare the two, aside from the fact that they're 12 years difference, the reboot is just way more fluid. Like everything just meshes well together when you're doing your moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that one, like we said, you had to stop and aim the guns and stuff. And in this one, you're just like shooting. You have 3 different types of bladed weapons that you can constantly just pull a trigger here and there, and you're switching between them. Mm-hmm. And you could have just one enemy in front of you, not even a boss, and use like 5 or 6 different types of weapons on him.
Yeah, and you got all these really cool effects going on, and like it just looks really kinetic and just really fast paced. Like it's really satisfying, is I guess the word I could use. Like every hit you do with Dante just feels right, and it feels like you're attacking these enemies, and it just feels like you have more weight with every blow you're dealing to them.
He's doing what I want him to do, whereas in the first one it's like, oh, he's doing what he does, and I'm just sort of there pushing the buttons.
Yeah. I think when you look at it, though, it's like Devil May Cry 1, the original, is very much, again, because of its Resident Evil roots, it still feels like it's a faster Resident Evil, right? Like, it still feels like it has a stiffness of a Resident Evil game, but it is definitely more fluid because you have more freedom of movement and everything.
I mean, it's the step they needed.
It is.
Obviously.
It is. It's just, it's funny when you consider it's like one step removed from tank controls.
Yeah.
Yet it doesn't feel like tank controls, but it kind of does. It's really bizarre.
And then this one feels like a modern hack and slash.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll talk about Dante before we get into the meat of the game here, because this is definitely the biggest sticking point. And, I will not stray away from it. When I first saw the redesign, I was totally turned off by it. I was like, what do they do to him? Like, he just looks like such a weird... I remember the word being thrown out back then was like sort of like a scenester emo kid kind of thing. Like, he just has this weird sort of degenerate attitude about him. He looks kind of disheveled, like he's, looks like he hasn't cleaned his little trailer in years or something like that. He's just supposed to be like this lackadaisical, devil no care kind of character.
He's just this party boy, like frat boy type guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But he knows that he's good at like combat, weirdly.
Yeah, because then here, this is where they firmly establish he's a Nephilim, like he's half demon, half human,
half angel,
excuse me. So they really lay that in there.
That's one thing I noticed they tweaked, is like his mom is now more than just a human; she was an angel too.
Yes, yeah. So you have that sort of that binary nature where it's like the devil and angel on your shoulder, and your weapons are representative of that too. Where the devil side has like this crazy hammer, and then the angel side has like this scythe that's a little bit more delicate and like dainty and fast paced.
Weird though, because the scythe is Death's weapon.
I know, it is kind of ironic there, yeah. But I mean, this game's steeped in like just dark lore anyway, so it fits.
Yeah.
So this character was redesigned. It's weird because they feel like they had to redesign as part of this reboot, which is understandable. But this feels like they went too far on the other side of like trying to make him cool versus just, I don't know how to explain how Dante in Devil May Cry 1, which is the red jacket, his quips, that silver hair somehow made him more stylishly, organically cool than this weird forcing like what's the expression, like a something like a square peg in a round hole.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like they tried to make him representative of the old Dante, but they totally missed the mark.
Well, it's weird if you kind of play along. It's not only a reboot, but like a prequel to those. Even though it's not going to fit into that timeline, it is showing this Dante before he even made the business of Devil May Cry.
Yeah, which is kind of like how Devil May Cry 3 was, because that was a prequel to the main series. And it's weird because the reboot is, from what I've read, it's sort of like a parallel universe, which is sort of their game, which makes sense again, like a multiverse thing.
Yeah.
how new and fresh, right?
This was just so eye-rollingly ridiculous at the beginning when that giant demon is coming after him and destroying the pier and destroying his thing. And he is naked because he was just spending the night with these girls and he wasn't ready for a giant demon to come after him. And in Matrix fashion, they bring it back after all these years. He gets dressed in midair.
It's almost like an Austin Powers thing. You remember that scene where like they're blocking his crotch the whole time when he's on the phone? It's exactly like they have a pizza covering his crotch while he's spinning through the air.
Or in the Simpsons movie when Bart is skateboarding naked.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like he was like, and somehow in slow-mo, he gets his pants. He finds his shirt. He puts his shoes on.
Yeah. It's super over the top.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know if it's just the face of his character. I just can't. I wish I could articulate more why I didn't like this characterization of him. Yeah, because one of the producers in a 2012 interview, he said visually, this is talking about Dante, of course. He said visually he's changed quite a bit, but I wouldn't describe him as a jerk personality wise. And when you play the game, you'll see what I'm talking about. But the original Dante was designed from a Japanese perspective. It was very much what Japanese people at the time thought was cool. So we took that core concept of coolness and viewed it through a Western lens and had the designers at Ninja Theory give us their spin on it. I think you'll see he's not much of a jerk as he might seem, which I say like he's more of like a sarcastic teenage jerk in this way, even though he's like, I think he's probably like in his early 20s or something.
I do want to play this more. I'm about 4 or 5 missions in, and like even in that short time, I noticed there's a little bit of growth. Like he's meeting the people that are going against the demons, and he's getting his memories back about his mother and his father. And all of a sudden, he's starting to turn into the Dante we know, where he's like, "Oh, I got these cool powers. I'm going to use them against these demons."
Yeah, he's getting that inflated ego kind of thing. Yeah, whereas here it's like he's still sort of finding himself. And you're right, like they do a better job with the story here. They characterize and build Dante.
And in the first one, he had already been established. Like he has this entire company like built on demon hunting, so he knows he's badass. People who come to him know he's badass.
Yeah, he's an established reputation.
Yeah, so I do see that what they were trying to attempt, but they just slightly missed the mark. And I actually think if they had done a second one of these in this timeline, they could have had him grow even more and start to become the other Dante.
Well, it's funny because one of the bonus outfits you can unlock, I don't know if you have to beat the game. I don't know what. I'm
no, those are
already unlocked. Definitive. Yeah, you get a Dante version where it's like he looks like DMC1 Dante, right? He has like the coat and like the hair and everything. It's really funny.
That was another part I rolled my eyes at, is like throughout all the chaos, at one point he goes through this shop and this wig lands on his head.
Yeah, it's sort of like a tongue-in-cheek way of saying like, yeah, this is what you're not getting anymore.
Yeah, it was like this white one. He looked exactly like the original, and he was like, never in a million years or something like that.
It's weird because that's like an overly confident thing to do, because I think with certain series, when you do a reboot, there's always going to be that microscope it's under. And I think when you almost like underscore like this is what Dante is, you're almost telling fans like, okay, forget what you knew. This is what we're moving forward with, which ultimately they didn't. I would say unfortunately, because I think it's just that the redesign didn't stick. But it sucks when you're kind of told as fans like, well, this is what you're getting from now on, even though that didn't really happen. You know,
I really enjoy that you meet his brother a lot earlier in this, and he's sort of this guiding force, guiding light. And it's weird that like the only thing they've redesigned here is Dante, where everything else gameplay wise, like you need 4 these little orb type things to extend your health bar. You get green stars as part of like your health refills. You get the red orbs to buy things. They even improved it to where you get the little white orbs to actually buy new powers instead of using red orbs.
Yeah,
on
it was
those.
separate currency.
Yeah, and I was just like, if it's not the same, it's an improvement. The only thing they changed weirdly was Dante.
Yeah, and it sucks because that's the main character. That's what you see. That's what you're playing as for this duration of 12, 15 hours of this game. So it sucks when everything about this game gets so much right. It's just unfortunate that the redesign was so drastically offensive to people that, and understandably, I'm not a big fan of this design. I don't think it's awful. I just don't think it fits with what Dante is. And it sucks because even the developer was saying like how he was getting death threats and whatnot, and like people were like making anti-Devil May Cry songs or something.
That's ridiculous.
I'm like, my thing's like there's always gonna be clowns on the internet who are just like shitbags like that, and it's like, just don't buy it.
Yeah,
if you want to take a stand against something, don't pay money for it. That's the whole point. Don't send death threats to a developer because you don't like how they changed Dante. That makes you look like a piece of garbage.
I think you were telling me earlier about the NASCAR guy on YouTube or whatever who's made nothing but videos that hate on the new game.
Yeah, it was that NASCAR 25 guy who just I was scrolling through videos and like everything was just negative. I'm like, all right, well, I'm just not going to give you a view. Then like you're garbage.
Yeah, ridiculous. Why are you even playing the game? Just you hate yourself that much?
I'm all for criticism or critical criticism, but when you start doing the hyperbolic garbage and then you start, sort of demeaning people who are just pointing it out, then it's like, all right, I'm not going to give you any attention. It's just not worth my time, really. But, in this regard with Dante, I would say, like, the design sucks, but I'm also not going to go start in the developer over it.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. We'll get into the story real quick here before we get into the bits and pieces of the game. So, like I mentioned, the story in this game is it's sort of a parallel universe to the main Devil May Cry series. It takes place in Limbo City, which is controlled by powerful demons with other demons. Like, I guess sort of their main world is a plane of existence called Limbo. And in this story here, Dante and his brother Virgil, they're out to find and kill Mundus, which again is sort of a connection to the main game. Mm-hmm. And here Mundus is like this sort of kingpin businessman who, I forgot how he ends up in the game. I think he basically turns into a demon because I think it's like a demon taking form of a human, right, to kind of take over the world more or less. Yeah,
because in Limbo they can be in demon form.
Yeah,
but in human world they have to be a human.
It's almost like they're almost like they're the disguise of sorts. So the Demon King Mundus killed Dante and Virgil's parents, so they're out to kill Mundus. And after he's killed, Virgil reveals that he wants to take Mundus's place and rule over humans to sort of save them from themselves, because he basically feels like that humans can't sort of. What's the word I'm looking for? Sort of,
survive on their own.
Survive on their own, I guess is probably the way to put it. Yeah, so he feels like they need some sort of divine being to kind of keep them corralled in a sense.
Kind of Injustice Superman.
Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then Dante defeats Virgil, and he's stopped by Kat, who's your female sort of co-star in this game. She kind of is like the narrative exposition person.
Yeah, is she the one that, like, at the beginning, she's opening the portals for him?
Yes. Okay. She's kind of, I actually call her like a witch or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she just has the power to go between the worlds.
Yeah. And then, so once you stop Virgil, because you'll fight him a couple times, that's when sort of Dante establishes Devil May Cry, and, sort of he becomes that person who wants to help humans rather than kill them.
See, like I said, if there was a second one, a follow-up to this, I'm sure they would have made some slight tweaks and changes based on people's feedback.
Yeah.
Like not some of the worst vitriol, but like just a little bit here and there, and then he would have been a lot more like the Dante we knew.
Yeah, I think again that's like really the missing ingredient in this game is just a likable main protagonist. That sucks because that's the main crux of the game, right? I'll get into some review scores here real quick, and I really just got like the Metacritic scores because magazines were dead by 2013 as far as I recall. I don't think anything was out.
It's a lot more modern now.
It's a lot more modernized now. So the initial version, this was released on PS3 and 360. This is the base version. It got an 85 out of 100 on PS3, 86 out of 100 on 360. The definitive version, which was released on PS4 and Xbox One, also, of course, backwards compatible now on Series X and PS5, which is a great way to play these. Mm-hmm. The PS4 version got an 83 out of 100. Xbox One got an 86 out of 100. In general, the story was praised with the game's overall very strong art design and combat. Some thought the story was too predictable and short. Limbo received a lot of positive response, and many loved the flow of combat. I saw some reviews describe the art as stunning, and some appreciated how the new Dante design, while others said that he lacked Dante's original features. And overall, this did sell 4 million copies across all versions by 2024, and Capcom was pleased with the success of it, but it was not world-changing enough to alter the direction of the series, which I'd say is a good thing, but it sucks because I do wish this game got more proper attention. 4 million sales is still really, really good, though.
It's funny that they mention the story was too predictable and short. It's like, well, duh. It's just based on the ones we already kind of knew.
Yeah,
with those
it's
characters.
a retelling of that.
I've come up with this like comparison in my head. It's kind of funny, like the original Devil May Cry and maybe its follow-ups in a trilogy form feel like a big budget blockbuster movie. Mm-hmm. And then this one in particular feels like the CW Arrowverse.
Yeah.
Where like those were really good shows, like when it comes to comics and things. But there was just less of a budget, so like they had to do different things with the story and the dialogue, and like there's a lot of time spent in city buildings and offices and things like that, where like Mundus is just this businessman.
Well, and that's where the big change is, because Limbo City, it's an urban environment,
yeah.
right? So like you say, you're fighting a lot of these streets, but again, like the big thing with this game for me is the art direction. I think it is really, really stunning, especially when in the Limbo. I don't know if you've gotten that far yet in
you
the
go
Limbo
into
levels.
like pretty much right away. You go into Limbo, and it's sort of like Silent Hill, where like everything is what the city looks like, but demonized.
Yeah, it's almost surreal. Like there's platforms floating, in space, in the air, and everything like that. Yeah. Your combat abilities are also used to sort of pull platforms towards you or away from you, kind of thing. So they do those things where your weapons now are part of the environment to traverse. You do find keys which unlock secret missions, which you can unlock more, fragments and whatnots to get your health up. There are these hidden, I forgot what they call them, those hidden guys that you slash, like they're coming out of the wall.
Oh yeah, they're like trapped souls.
Yeah, trapped souls. So
yeah.
There's those things you can unlock, which I forget what you get for getting all of them, but they're basically the game keeps track of each level and each mission and what you've collected throughout. So this game does have the styling system that Devil May Cry 1 has, of course, where the more variety in your combat, which in this game you have a ton of variety just from those 3 weapons you have.
Yeah, it's so much easier to vary things up in this one.
It's super fluid because you have your dedicated launcher button, which in the previous games you would have to like hold back and hit slash. Here it's just one button. You have your dedicated melee button, which is really just your slash for all 3 weapons you have, and you have like a jump button. You have a dedicated dodge button, which is really nice. It's funny because before this game came out, which is what turned me over this game, was I did a play test in Redwood City. There was like this, I think it's called like VG Market. They offered me $50 to go play the game for an hour, and I give your feedback.
Nice.
So I did, and then they kept me a little bit longer and paid me another $30 and said like, well, we want more of your feedback on there. It kept me and like a few other people. And one of the things I hated about the game when I played the demo was how slow his dodge was. Like it was like this weird overarching hop.
Oh.
And then I was like, you guys have to change that. Like you can't keep this is a Devil May Cry game. Like you can have him do like this awkward hop that just stops combat.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the enemies are quicker in this than they even were in the original.
Yeah. So when this game came out, I bought it on launch day at Fry's because I was from the playtest. I was super excited to play it after I got over the redesign.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, they fixed it. I'm sure it's because a lot of people gave the same feedback, but I was like really happy that they took at least what I said like about the dodge and saying like, yeah, that you need to improve the flow of combat with that. But otherwise, like if you stop combat when you dodge, what the hell am I doing?
I even like how you can, while you're in your like devil or angel mode, it makes the dodge even better.
Yeah, because you also can level those up too. I think there's other abilities that give you like your angel one. You have almost like a teleport dash, almost, or something like that.
You can like they call it like phasing or something.
Yes,
yeah.
And in addition to all of that, you do have like the style gauge on here, and the combat, because of all the moves you have, like you constantly just be seamlessly switching. I think that's really the biggest thing here that was later adopted, even Devil May Cry 5, where Devil May Cry 5 you get the D-pad to switch your weapons, and here you just hold the trigger and you instantly switch, which works so freaking well and really adds so much to the combat of this game.
Yeah, I was impressed with, even though sometimes my brain gets a little switched and I don't do the moves that I want to do, I'm still very happy with like, if you go into angel mode, that's to clear out a large space of enemies. If you go into the devil mode, that's to add power and break shields and things like that. And then regular Dante mode is just your sword and your guns, and you fight quicker. Do you ever get like in the original game, you have your pistols, but you also get a shotgun. You also get other swords or other types of melee weapons. Is that the case in this one, or is it basically now just these 3?
Well, you get those 3 weapons
plus the little whip thing to grab.
Yeah, to pull enemies or pull yourself to them.
But you never have to go into like change from a pistol to a shotgun or anything?
I don't
like
think
that?
so. I think you only have, they're called ebony and ivory, which I think is always a cool name for pistols. Yeah, but I think you only get the pistols. You get a shotgun. I can't fully remember. But again, like, yeah, you do level up all those items. Like each of the weapons have their own sort of leveling up tier.
That's a little daunting. Like when I first saw the tree or the list of things, I was, like I said, happy that there's new white orbs just specifically for these moves. But then as I unlocked a new axe or I unlocked the scythe and those had their own lists, I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah. And it's fun because, before we talked about doing the reboot and including in this episode, I went back to my PS4 save file, and it turns out so I got my PS4 in June 2015 because of Batman Arkham Knight.
Nice.
I got this because it already come out, and I was like, I have to get this, and I found it used for like $15. And last time I played this game, apparently, according to my trophies, was like September 2015.
Whoa.
And I'd put like almost 40 hours into it. And this is also after I'd beaten the original, which I played through at least once, maybe twice. So I've put it has to be like 50, 60 hours between Devil May Cry reboots. But I think the whole point with the expanded ability list is it's supposed to be like successive playthroughs because once you beat it, you do unlock more difficulties. And there's some wild ones, like there's Son of Sparta, which is hard mode, which I found out I did end up beating back then. There's Dante Must Die, and then there's modes like that they took from Devil May Cry 3, like one's called Heaven or Hell, where you and the enemies could die in one hit. So so it's just sort of like an endurance of like how far can I get before I get hit once and die, right? And I don't know if that matters with pistols. I imagine not. Like you probably have to slash them with your sword or something. I don't know how that works. But, I think that's the whole thing is like on successive playthroughs, you can eventually unlock all the abilities because I do have a lot, but I also have played this game a lot too. And frankly, like you really could stick to the ones you really use more than anything, right? Like you just level up. I think like most of them have like one or two tiers to an ability, so you could just use those if you want to too. But later on in the game, you do need more abilities to survive on the harder difficulties.
I just hope that, like, I don't like when some games have a clear, like, what they want you to get, and you're probably definitely going to need certain upgrades to make the last levels easier, but maybe you haven't gone that direction and now you're screwed. I hate when games do that. If it truly lets me play the way I want to play and level up what I want to level up, I am all for that, and give me more games like that. But
I think with this, at least for action games, from my respect, like you can technically spec how you want because at that point you kind of have to. It matches your playstyle, right?
Yeah.
It might be more difficult because by nature your playstyle might be just hard to sort of get through certain sections, but you do have that versatility where it's like you can level up the abilities you do want and need if those are working for you. I don't know if there's a respec in here. I assume not because you can technically unlock everything. I'm not sure. But I feel like this is like mostly fair with, especially on like a normal. I think this is tuned really well. Like it's not too hard. It's just right. There's some segments that, if I recall correctly, do get more difficult, but I think it's fine.
Yeah, so far I haven't died yet. Luckily.
Yeah. Luckily, yeah. See, I'd say it's a plus, yeah.
Yeah, like not like the freaking spider boss in the last one.
No, I think here, it's, like I said, the bosses aren't too bad. Plus, you have so much combat versatility that you can manage most of these bosses pretty well.
I did think it was weird that I had to get to the third or fourth mission before outside green orbs even showed up.
That is really weird.
Yeah.
They probably feel like you didn't need it in the earlier levels, I guess.
But I was still getting smacked around in the early ones.
Yeah. I guess let me talk about real quick the variety of levels in here, because again, it goes back to the strong art direction. This game does its best to kind of make each mission distinct from itself. You might get some of the similar environments because it's like sort of urban because it's placed in the city, and you have Limbo, which is it's almost like a dream world compared to the main real world. There's one, and this game does a lot with the music as well. There's like a heavy industrial soundtrack, which I think aids the game really, really well. There's also a really freaking cool level that you'll get to later, Deucy, in a nightclub I was telling you about.
Yeah.
This is where you sort of pursue Mundus, and I forgot, I think is Lilith, I think is her name.
Ah.
Yeah, he has
There's
a
always a
girlfriend named Lilith. Yeah, the queen succubus. But it's really cool because in that nightclub level, they have a Combat Christ going, which is like this industrial band. But it's great because the floor lights up with the beat of the music, which again, I think just lends to Ninja Theory's style, where it's like, it almost is like the nightclub scene in The Matrix or something like that. Where it's like everything's just booming around you, and like there's combat going on. There's people dancing while you're killing demons in the middle of the dance floor.
I will say this, like, while the original game came out in 2001 and we said the music was very 2000s and everything, this feels like an homage to I think I told you, it was like the late 90s, early 2000s Marvel movies.
Yeah,
You know,
I could see that. Like
before-
Blade and where they're kind of trying to find what Marvel movies were.
And Daredevil and stuff like that. It just felt like an homage to the original time period of Devil May Cry.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting because this is 2013, which is post Iron Man, and I don't know what else had come out after Iron Man.
I think
like Captain America?
Even Avengers had been out by the time this one was out, wasn't it?
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
2011, 2012 then, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy that this was all happening in tandem.
Yeah.
A weird culture sort of
but it
convex.
was far enough out that we can now pay homage to the start of the 2000s.
We can, yeah. I mean, really at the end of the day, this is what this is. It's sort of like a throwback to the 2000s, yet it's 2010ized, which is weird to say.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I guess we get the final thoughts of this game, Deucy. I think we're nearing the end here. So overall, I've been I've been gushing about how much I love the reboots and the original. I think the reboot has its place in this series. I think it's great that more people are coming around to it. Oh, one thing I will note, the definitive edition, really the biggest difference there is that everything is it runs at 60 frames a second, 1080p, looks really great on Xbox One and PS5. PC only has the regular version. I don't know why they didn't release the definitive version.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, the definitive version adds stuff like a turbo mode, which makes the game 20% faster. There's a hardcore mode where it changes the combo system to be more difficult like the original games, which is kind of weird. I guess it's probably more strict with your styling. It added a target lock by holding R1, so that wasn't in the original, believe it or not. And Virgil is in the definitive edition. He has a whole playable campaign. It's a little bit shorter, a little bit sweeter, but his abilities are drastically different than Dante's, so it's really just like a brand new campaign in my eyes. Like, it feels like Virgil is the differentiator that they hoped Lucia would be back in the day, right? Yeah. Where it's like he has his own separate campaign. It might be short and sweet. It's sort of like I think it runs in parallel to Dante's main campaign, so it's sort of like up to a point where they meet in a Virgin way.
That makes sense.
It's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. I played through it. I don't remember much of it, unfortunately, because it was so long ago. But it's worth playing through because it's definitely a little bit easier as Virgil because he has like just ridiculous abilities with his katana.
It's funny now that you mentioned it. Right when you're starting up the game, they already have both stories unlocked, but they don't tell you that in like parentheses or anything. This is Dante. This is Virgil. They just have two different titles for the stories.
Yeah, I forgot what it's called. But yeah, it's sort of like his DLC name.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'm just going to start on this top one because I think that's the main one.
Yeah, but the definitive version, the enhancements it makes they are worthwhile. Like, there's really not any reason to go get the originals because I also don't even think you could technically play them if you want to.
Oh wow,
I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if they're backwards compatible on 360. But again, the definitive version, it's always like $10. Worth it. Just don't look. I mean, I don't want to say don't look at Dante because you have to, but put your. You get the old skins back. You can play as the old Dante in this. You do, and despite his cheese factor and the miss of a design, this is truly a stellar game. It's one of the best action games I think I've played ever. Frankly, it's one of my favorites. I think the hate for it is unjust. Frankly, I know it's sold well, but I think it's a top tier Devil May Cry game. Just outside of the redesign, it's just a top tier combat, top tier art design. It's just a really well made action game.
Yeah, I remember back in 2013-ish, I was very confused as to why they were already rebooting it.
Yeah.
And also very confused as to why he had dark hair. Dante was known for the silver and white, but now that I've played it, I want to play through more of it, try to finish it. Like, I'm really enjoying the story so far. Like I said, it feels like a television show more than a big blockbuster movie.
But it's also more filled out than even Devil May Cry 1 was, right? Because Devil May Cry 1 is, again, we go back to how it's the Resident Evil Origins game pretty much, but the story is almost tertiary to everything else.
Yeah,
and then here it's folded in better.
You just go to this fantasy island and you fight in a castle and you fight demons, whereas in this one it's like, oh, there's stakes. They've already established how Mundus is like related to the boys and everything, and why they're going after him, and it's setting up for a really cool like confrontation. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more of it, and don't even care now at this point what Dante looks like or how he's acting.
Yeah, you could get over it because again, the game is so fun, and I'm really excited for you to play through it and see how far it gets, and for you to see like all the environments I keep talking about, because Limbo is just. They do some really cool shit with some of the levels later because just they allow their imagination to flow, and it really is just such a fantastic spin on the series lore and everything like that.
Yeah.
But it's just such a great game. I really love this game. It's just I keep going back to that redesign that so many people hate, and
so unnecessary.
It is. It's like it's not that bad. Like I probably have seen worse. Not that I care.
Yeah.
the game is so good that I could just dismiss all that and just put that all away. It's not a big deal. All right, so dude. So I guess we've finished our Devil May Cry episode here. So join us next week because we have our bonus episode coming out. Because as of this release, it's the 24th of October. On 31st, we're releasing our, we'll call it now, annual Resident Evil episode.
The Halloween episode.
The Halloween episode that lands on a Friday, which is perfect. The Halloween episode covering Resident Evil 2 and its remake, and that is going to be a fantastic episode because Deuce and I grew up with that series. More specifically, 2 because I might have played 2 before I played most of 1, frankly. I think I watched somebody play 1. But 2 is really where the beginning of my love of Resident Evil started.
Mine too.
Exactly, right? So it's going to be a great nostalgia fun-filled episode for us because there's memories you and I have of playing it with our friend Merv and everything. So it's going to be really fun to go through again.
I can't wait to play some of it again to refamiliarize myself with the original.
It's great because it's on PS Plus, so you don't have to do much. You just download it on PS Plus and play your PS1 game on a PS5. It's fantastic. If you want to reach out to us and tell us anything about Devil May Cry or, a Resident Evil or anything, you just want to shoot the shit about games, that's fine. Email us at legiongamingpod@gmail.com, and we're more on Instagram at Legion Gaming Podcasts. And if also for some reason you want to go on Blue Sky, where some people just kind of hang around, legiongamingpod.bsky.social. Deucy, any final words for our friends who are going to go find out what Devil May Cry?
Press start to continue.
I will suffer, I will